Hi, everybody. I'm Melinda Gallant, and I want to welcome you to another Cape Conversations. We are here in the beautiful Sandwich Town Hall, brand spanking clean new Sandwich Town Hall, a beautiful place to come and visit and a beautiful place to work, I think. Anyway, we're here today to visit with our town clerk, Taylor White. So come along. Let's have another Cape Conversations. Hi, everybody. I am sitting in the beautiful new office of our wonderful town clerk, Taylor White. Thank you for doing a Cape Conversations.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to see you.
Yeah, this is the new building. We're here.
Wow, it is so cool. It is. And you've got a beautiful courtyard downstairs.
Yeah, we have some lunches out there. And
yeah. Any like big staff meetings out there so you get sunshine?
Room, but,
I was going to say you need the vitamin D, you guys.
No, this is a great building. It's very functional. We have all of everybody's in one spot right now.
Oh, it's wonderful.
If anyone remembers my old office, this is a step above.
Yeah, yes. Although your old office had character.
It did. Character is another word for old.
Hey. Well, you were a character in a character place. How about that?
Yeah. We're happy to be here.
That's great. So, Taylor, there's a myriad of things coming up. I mean, just zillions and zillions of things. And I don't think people sometimes understand how they could make your life easier if they did what they were supposed to do. And but we've got elections, you've got the census, the town census. So let's start with elections.
Elections, we're currently 2023. Quiet year.
Wait, that is this year. Is 2000? Yes. For those out there who don't know,
we had one election this year. We are very excited. We have a very busy year, 2024. It's going to start off with a presidential primary, March 5th.
Nice. Yeah.
That's going to start booting up very early in the year. The next election coming up is a local town election. We'll see how busy that is, and that's the first Thursday in May. The state primary.
Okay, stop.
Yes.
So town election. What goes on in the town? What's coming up in town election?
Town elections are just you're going to be electing your selectmen, your school committee. There's a other board of health.
Okay, so it's a big town election.
The moderator's up this year.
Oh wow!
I don't know which selectmen are up offhand, but it's going to be a busy year.
Yeah.
And then who knows? There might be ballot questions that are associated with that as well.
Oh sure.
So that's in May. Then September. The date of the September primary is an unknown. At this time, we don't know what it's going to be.
Okay.
Usually it's the first or second week, but the legislature has to go through a process with that. So as soon as we hear that, we'll announce that. Then the November 5th. Is it November 5th? Yes,
and it's November the primary 5th. For the state.
That's the state primary.
Okay.
So that'll be, you'll be deciding who's going to be, I forget which offices are up, your state rep, your state senators, those types of things. And then you'll be looking at the November 5th general election, which you'll be voting on for the presidential, senators, congressmen, all those types of things.
Right.
It's going to be an exciting year, not only just here in Sandwich, but across the Commonwealth.
Yep.
It's going to be busy.
Across the country, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very 2024.
So I am curious because there are other places in the United States that have issues when people vote.
Yep.
Now I've been very fortunate to be a poll worker.
Yeah, you have.
And I said one time I spelled poll wrong, and somebody thought, "Wait a minute, you're doing a poll, like a pole dance?" And I went, "Oh no, I meant POL."
POL.
Anyway, silly me. And everybody who comes in is wonderful. Despite whatever your affiliation is, everybody's nice, they're polite, they talk to one another.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good to see you, I haven't seen you in ages. Neighbor to neighbor,
Sure.
I haven't seen you. It's always wonderful. Do you ever expect any issues?
No, I mean, we haven't. I've been doing this for 15 years now.
Yeah.
We have awesome poll workers. We have
who can spell it right now.
The community comes together. They come out and they vote at the voting locations.
Yeah.
And we think, and I think we've run a pretty smooth operation over the years. Once in a while you'll get the only issues that I've ever seen come up, and they're not really issues inside the voting areas per se, but I've had candidates holding signs too close to the doors, those types of things, and we just have to go out there and enforce that and say, make sure you step out back 150 feet. But other than that, things have run pretty smoothly over the years.
Well, I've been there. I usually check people in is what I normally do. So, but I've had people that go over, to put the ballot through and something, it kicks it back. But everybody, again, is just so respectful. It's just very respectful. It's It's their civic duty. They're there to do that. They want to make sure everything goes through. And everybody that you bring in to work for you or for the town to do this are also very respectful. I think we're a model maybe for what other states could look at to say, hey, this little town, Sandwich, Massachusetts, has got it right.
Now we have 17,000 voters in Sandwich, so
Right.
we have right now we're at 2 voting locations. But you know, I do watch the news and I see these situations that there's lines around the corners. And
I
obviously,
know.
it's maybe a different dynamic, but you know, we've always found we have some lines once in a while for very big elections, but we try to get the voters in and out, execute their civic duty, and then go on their way as fast as possible.
So how many people are registered?
We have probably right at 17,000 plus or minus registered voters. The population of the town is right around 20,000.
Right. Wow, 90-some%?
We're at 90. Last time I checked, which was about a year ago, but we're roughly around 96, 97%.
Wow.
Of those who are eligible, 18 and over,
That's
to
wonderful.
vote, are registered. So
Good for you, Sandwich.
We have a very high, getting into the polls is always a little bit difficult, but as far as the eligibility is concerned, 97% of our residents are registered. So that's good
great.
news.
That is very good news. So that's the elections.
That's the schedule coming up.
Yep.
People also need to be aware that for the past 10 years, they have voted at the Wing School, and they have voted at the Forestdale School and the Oak Ridge School. It's coming up, starting this year, in May, we did a reconfiguration of the polling locations. So people need to be aware that where they normally vote is no longer that area. You're going to have to go to a new area. We did a insert in the census this year, which people got, and we're going to be doing a series of public information and the census again next year, which goes out to all residents and all voters in January of 2024. Is also going to have a note in it saying you are registered at this location, at this precinct. So
I see. And the 2 locations are,
the 2 locations are Corpus Christi Parish Center, which is at the corner of Quaker Meeting House.
the big hall.
The big hall.
Yeah.
And that's precincts 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
And then if you are in 4, 5, and 6,
You're at the
Council on Aging, the
Wonderful.
new Center for Active Living. So
Excellent.
we have 2 basically centrally located facilities that have ample parking, ample access, ample floor space to run an election.
Right.
So the test run was back in May for our local election, and we got a lot of positive feedback saying that the process was easy and the space was easy and the access was easy.
Right.
So we're looking forward to making sure that people know about those locations coming up, because sometimes, for good or bad, sometimes people
They end up at the Wing School.
If you go to the Wing School, any school now, it's going to be no one's going to be there. So, But we have a plan in place to make sure that we try to educate as many people as we can.
Sure.
Some people, believe it or not, only vote every 2 to 4 years. And that is what it is. They only vote in state elections.
Right.
So they may not be
Realize,
as used to the new voting location.
Right,
But we're going
right.
to try to do the best we can to educate folks.
Well, I thought it was interesting because I have heard people say, well, I wonder why they picked a church, separation of church and state stuff. However, in Sandwich, it's the biggest hall around.
It is.
In East Sandwich.
Yeah, Corpus Christi we've been trying to get into that location due to its proximity.
Yeah, it's right in the heart of things
and
there.
They finally agreed to help the community out, and
Nice.
the Council on Aging building became available. It was a
Right.
great opportunity for us to reorganize and pull out of the schools. There were some safety concerns,
Oh,
which is
absolutely.
fine, and we understand
Yeah.
that. So, but the problem was those safety concerns have existed for a while, but there was no alternative. So when
Right.
the Council on Aging building became available,
Right.
and then we were able to get into into Corpus Christi, it worked out for everybody.
Sure.
The issue, I've spoken to many people about the issue. If people don't realize, it's never been done here in Sandwich, but it's done all over the country. It's done all over the Cape.
Voting in churches?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
done
I
in
know.
Falmouth and Barnstable and
Yeah,
Mashpee.
yeah.
It's done all over the place. It's just new to Sandwich, so people
Right.
need to get used to it. I tell folks, if you're uncomfortable with that, there's plenty of other options. There's
You can come in person
early
here.
voting. Yeah. There's mail-in voting. But overall, the feedback has been very positive because,
Excellent.
and from a perspective, from an elections perspective, you need to design your voting locations to withstand the highest voter turnout, which is, in this case, presidential elections.
Right.
So that's when you're going to be processing hundreds of voters per hour, and you have to
Right.
make sure that you have the room and the space and the parking and the
Right.
access. So
I see.
we think we've done the Board of Registrars and the Board of Selectmen concur that those locations are most viable. So
Yeah.
that will be moving forward for at least the next 10 years where we'll be located.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it's all good then.
Yeah.
All
We're looking
right.
forward to
Well,
it.
which also comes to a new year, a new census.
Yep, we do that.
Why do you send out that census?
I know everyone gets that pesky census that we send to them every year.
And I always thought it was to find out if you had a dog or not.
No. The census is required under state law that every city and town needs to basically, I always say, knock on the door of their residents every year to confirm that they still reside at that address. So we're required. We send out about 8,500 plus or minus households in Sandwich right now. So every January, typically end of December, early January, residents will get a census. It will list the names, dates of birth, and occupations of the residents that we are aware of that are residing at that address. Residents are encouraged to just make changes if there's any changes, and then sign it and send it back to us or drop it off. And that basically just updates your census year in our system. So that happens all across the Commonwealth. And the reason for that is census is tied to certain benefits that you can receive.
Sure.
It's tied to your voting. So we want to
Is it tied to the town, how much money the town can get, or no?
To a certain extent, if the town's applying for grants,
that's what I
from
meant.
the state or the feds, they can say, okay, our population meets this criteria. We have this age group, or we have this total number of voters. So there's a lot of other things that are tied to it. And we're cognizant of the fact that it's again, I say pesky census. We're required to do it. We try to make it as easy as possible for folks to just turn and burn and get that back to us. The other part of it, which again is something that we're required to do, is send out inactivity notices. So after a couple of months, after 6 months of not receiving it, people are placed on the inactive voting list, and then we have to send out another round of notifications. And people often say, "Well, you took me off the voting list." No, we don't take people off the voting list. That's a very cumbersome process, and it takes 4 years. We're basically putting you on an inactive list to say, "Hey, are you still living in Sandwich?
Right.
Are you still living in the town?" So we give them opportunities to check a box and say, "Yes, I still live here." Boom, you go right back on the active voting list.
Right.
If they don't respond to that inactivity mailing for, I think it takes 2 biennial elections, which is 4 years, eventually people will be removed from the list.
Right. So if they walk in after 4 years and say, I'm voting for president. No, you're not.
Yeah. But during that 4 years, if you do any other action, if you respond to the census,
I see.
or if you actually go vote, during
then
that time period, you're reactivated.
I see.
It's basically a tool that the Commonwealth uses to keep the voting list clean and active. Because if you decide to move to Ohio, or whatever, and you don't
go back.
Yeah, that's right. If you go back to Ohio and you don't tell us, you will basically stay on our voting list here in Sandwich in perpetuity. So that's the only tool that we can use to make sure that the list is clean and updated. So when people get those, we're not trying to kick anybody off the voting list. We're just trying to say, hey, we want to make sure you still live here.
It's funny because I don't remember ever filling out a census in Ohio when we lived there for the 10 years after I was married and we lived there. And then I was a voting person, a poll worker there too. But I never remember ever having any kind of a thing that proved. And when we left, we just left and got driver's license tags.
It may be, and I'm not aware of how it works in the rest of the country. It may be state specific that's the tool they use here in Mass. But there's something, and a lot of people get the town census, which is sent out every year, confused with the federal census.
Which is not every year.
That's every 10 years.
Oh, 10 years, that's right.
And the town census comes out once a year. So it's important, especially during those every 10 years when we send out the town census, we're very cognizant that, hey, you're also going to get a federal census. So those aren't the same entity. So we need to make sure people fill them both out. So now that you're in this new building, do you find it's easy? Work is easier? Haha, she said. Yeah.
Space-wise, anyway.
Space-wise, functionality-wise, I found, at least me personally, when I'm trying to get business done, it's easier to be able to go to different departments and speak to the staff and the department heads instead of having to send an email or drive across town or whatever the case is, or make a phone call even. So it's easier just to kind of get that. So I find productivity, from my perspective, has heightened quite a bit for this building.
Well, as a JP, I just want to tell you, the two ladies who work out front
Sue and Linnea.
Oh my gosh.
They're the cogs that make this whole thing
They
work.
are. Yeah. And when I come in, they check over to make sure I did the marriage license correctly. And I mean, it's very efficient out there. They're very good at what they do.
They're the best.
Yeah.
I couldn't ask for a better staff.
Yeah.
So we give them kudos, and a lot of people don't understand what this office actually does. I mean, people know that the town clerk runs the elections, but there's over 300, I think the last time, 350 different functions that we could do on any
Really?
specific day. Don't ask me to name them all.
No.
But,
Well, I know one is marriage
we
licenses.
do, we're the general summation of what a town clerk does. First and foremost, runs the elections and all of the different components that come with that. The second major thing is the keeper of the vital records. So we're handling birth, marriage, death records. That's big. The other thing we're doing was business licensing, dog licensing. We're doing the census every year.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different components that this office does, and it's sort of, I always say, different parts of the year we're very slow, and other times of the year we're too busy, we can't handle it. So it ebbs and flows. So going back to 2024, we are going to be, it's going to be a very busy year because in January we're going to have the census. And then we're going to be coming right up to that first primary, the presidential primary in March.
Right.
And then May is right around the corner. And they'll have a little bit of a lull in the summer, but then we're going to go in the fall. It's going to go right back to the election season.
Right.
So, but speaking of elections, I think it would be important to remind the viewers that as happened in 2020 and 2022, the Secretary of State is going to be mailing everyone across the Commonwealth and here in Massachusetts, if you're a registered voter, you're going to receive one of those vote by mail cards.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so I would suspect, I don't know, it's not my wheelhouse, but I would suspect that they'd be mailing those out right at the beginning of January, in advance of the March presidential primary. So people want to look out for that.
Because if you're not going to be around, you might want to vote by mail.
So it's basically no excuse absentee voting. So if you wanted to vote by mail, you have the option to do so.
Right.
So when you fill that card out, it comes back to us. We process it, and as soon as the ballots are available for the March presidential primary,
Then you send those
we'll mail
out.
them out.
Yep.
There'll be a series of notifications as it pertains to in-person early voting, which will happen typically. It's about a week. It's on a one weekend day, which is a Saturday, and then the week following that will be in-person early voting for a primary, for general elections, which is in November. It'll be a 2-week period with 2 weekend days in there. All that information will be well advertised. It'll be on our website.
Sure.
We're doing those. All the in-person early voting will take place at the Council on Aging, or the Center for Active. I keep getting that wrong. Center for Active Living.
Yeah.
At the center of town.
We're not aging. We're just active.
Active living. But it's a beautiful building if you haven't been up there.
Oh my gosh, it is. It is beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous.
But we're going to have all of our early voting will take place there, so residents can go up there during the allotted time periods and cast their vote early. So there'll be a lot of options in 2024 and a lot of opportunities.
Right. So no excuses.
There should be no excuse. If you want to cast your vote in the town of Sandwich, we're going to provide you with every available option to do so.
As I told you, it's just like being a good retailer.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Make it available.
Yeah.
Make whatever your goods are available to anybody. Take every credit card, be extra nice, do all those things. You do all those things. You don't take every credit card. Well, you probably do take credit cards if you need them, but however, you're making it available to everybody in almost every way possible. That there's no excuse to not vote.
And we really encourage people that if you want to learn more about it, call the office, call us, check the website. We put all the information that we can onto it.
Do you have a separate website from the town?
It's on the town's website. So if you go to the town's website, go to the clerk's portion of the page. Anything relative to voting and elections is all going to be posted there.
I see.
We do post some of that stuff also on the town's calendar.
Oh, sure.
So you'll see that there as well.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
So we're trying to be as proactive as possible.
Excellent.
We're going to, like I mentioned earlier, in the census that we're going to do in January, but we know that's the one opportunity that we have to basically mail every household. So we're going to try to include in that a lot of information for the upcoming year, what you can expect, where you're going to vote, those types of things.
Right. Maybe a little card they could put on their refrigerator that says this,
Actually, the portion that we have detaches, so you can put that on your fridge if you're so inclined.
Nice. Well, but here's the thing. You know, some of us are getting older. Fortunately, I'm not, you're not. Well, you're so young anyway.
Just more character.
Just more character. Boy, am I a character. However, that said, a lot of people need that to remind them. They go, oh my God, it's voting day. I didn't even realize it, you know. Although I don't know where, you must be under a rock, but it still happens.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, it's funny, we get calls, even we're getting calls now. It's being September, so people are saying, where do we vote? and because you're seeing TV advertisements for some states do have primaries in September. Massachusetts doesn't, of course.
Right.
So we have signs around town before elections, before town meetings, those types of things. So we try to get out there best we can. But,
Sure.
I have a feeling in 2024 there's going to be enough chatter and talk and TV commercials that
Oh my gosh.
you should be able to know when the elections are happening.
Well,
So,
except we live in a bubble state. We don't get half of what they get in the rest of part of the United States.
yeah.
Trust me, I've seen them. It's quite amazing, absolutely amazing. So Taylor White, personally, how are you personally? Are you've got a lovely family. You've got two of the most gorgeous little girls I've ever seen.
Our little rugrats.
And where did they come from? Obviously, your wife.
Believe it or not, our oldest is now 3 years old. She turned 3 in August.
She's not in preschool yet.
She is.
Oh
She
my
is.
golly.
Yeah, she goes to Joyful Noise down over here at the center of town.
Oh,
Beautiful.
nice.
We love them over there. Do a great job. And then our youngest is she's 19 months now.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so they're keeping my gray hairs coming in fast and furious.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to lock them up when they're 16, I think.
They are so cute. They say kids say the darndest things, but I believe that now.
Yeah.
Having two of these kids now.
Oh, that's wonderful.
They're running around teaching us all kinds of lessons.
Oh, that's good. That's a good thing. So if there's a takeaway from all of this, what do you want people to remember from this? If they remember one thing or two things out of this little interview, what do you want them to remember?
Yeah, the town clerk is here to serve you. So that's my role and the role of my staff, and whether it be any of those functions that I mentioned, and I know we kind of did it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
But the other thing we do is we do public records requests here, those types of things. So we are basically, I like to say, we're the depository for a lot of town records, meeting minutes, everything, public records, elections. We're kind of the engine here that keeps things going. So if people need information about elections or any of the things that I mentioned, I encourage them to call us, stop by, send an email. Please know that we're trying to be as proactive as possible, but we realize there's limitations to that.
Sure.
So if people want to take something away from this, I would say just try to be involved civically, engage, get out there, vote, and if we can assist you in any of those things, just let us know. That's why we're
wonderful. Here. Wonderful. One thing which you just touched on slightly was town committees. They have to put up their agendas, all that with you, don't they?
Yeah, that's one of those functions that we say. So that's actually a big
But
part
people
of
don't realize that when they go, oh, well, nobody knew that meeting was happening. Oh, yeah, you did.
Well, that's one of the things we do. Any public bodies, as they're summarized, is called as any public body, including the Selectmen's School Committee, Board of Health, all those types of things.
Yeah.
They are required to post their agendas 48 hours in advance with the town clerk. The town clerk then posts it on an official posting board, which we have outside of our office.
Yeah.
Also, to make it easy for folks who don't want to come down here, it's on our website.
Right.
Once those meetings take place, those committees provide meeting minutes. Those meeting minutes are also filed here in perpetuity. They're put online and then stored in our vault downstairs. So,
I see.
And we have hundreds of years worth of that stuff.
Wonderful.
A lot of paper around here.
I know it might be interesting to go back, though, and see 100 years ago. What were the topics back then? What was keeping the town clerk up at night?
We have the material downstairs if anyone wants to do that research.
Well, it might be kind of interesting though if somebody was doing a book about Sandwich.
Yeah. Well, we have the Russ Lovell book, which the town published back. That was 8 years ago now.
Yeah, amazing.
Sandwich at Cape Cod Town. That was a great publication that was built. But we have records going back to the 1640s in our vault downstairs. So
that's amazing.
It's some really cool stuff, and I'm happy to be the caretaker of those documents.
Yeah,
Thumbing through them once in a while.
Well, it's an honor.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Those are open to the public as well. So if anyone wants to come down and do some research, give us a call.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you for being with me today.
My pleasure.
And it's a gorgeous day outside. I hear we're going to get a little rain over the weekend. So they say, one more time.
2023 is no lack of rain.
No lack of rain. We don't have to worry about a drought. And you don't have to worry about a drought of civic engagement because there are a lot of people here. 97% of the Sandwich residents are registered voters, and that's a fabulous thing for sure. So thank you.
Yes,
I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for coming and opening this office up and getting more people knowing what we do here.
Excellent. Well, it's really, really an interesting office. I love all your paraphernalia and your keepsakes and all these plaques on the wall. It makes you look very official.
Well, we have to decorate the wall somehow.
Well, it looks great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, Taylor White was so wonderful.
What a well of knowledge he is. He knows everything about everything that has to do with town clerking. Elections are coming up. Oh, we've got the census you've got to turn in. So thank you for joining me today. Pay attention into your mail because you're going to see a lot of information coming from the town clerk. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time on another Cape Conversations.